Test 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I find the defendant guilty on all charges. Oh, hey everybody, welcome to the show. First of all, the fact that I'm doing a video is good news because for those of you who were paying attention, those of you who give a damn, our baby rat, our pet rat Bort, was a little under the weather over the last couple days. A couple days ago, saying under the weather would be an understatement. Seemingly at death's door, I think would be a more accurate description of his condition. Can you hear that? This chair makes so much noise. I swear to God, it's not my body. Good news is, doing much better. We've seen this before, and it can go either way, but, we've seen little pets that only live a few years anyway, they go downhill really fast. So you can have, in the morning, totally normal morning, everything seems fine. By the time you get home from work, like, they can't even lift their head up. Like, it's bad. It can just be real fast. And that's what happened. And we have had this experience, and what we have learned, my wife and I, is you basically force food, force water, because obviously when they're sick, they don't, they don't have energy necessarily to eat, but they're also they lose their appetite. And once you're not eating and drinking, that's just like, that's a death sentence. So you force water, you force food, you just force calories and energy into them until they can get better. And that's what happened. So not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, still very tired, very weak. But enough about me. No. But yeah, Bort's doing a lot better. So that's very good. He's more, back to his old self today, which is why I decided I felt good about doing a video. I felt, perks you up, Obviously having a sick pet is sad. But also some things you might notice different about this video. One, it's in a 4:3 aspect ratio. For those of you, it's a little more square, like an old TV versus widescreen. This particular camera has some quirks. It's older now. I've had this camera for quite a few years, and it has some weird things about like shooting resolution. I want to film in the 4:3 aspect ratio. I think I just like the framing of it more. And there's a nostalgia to it, obviously. But it also, I think for a lot of people who watch more things on mobile, in some ways, I think it makes more sense to do something that is a little closer to, like, you don't have to turn everything to widescreen on your phone. But it doesn't matter. But this camera can only shoot in this aspect ratio if it is extremely low resolution or extremely high resolution. And the high resolution is like wildly, prohibitively high resolution to like where the file sizes are ridiculous and there would be no reason to do it. So this episode, I'm filming in extreme low resolution. It's actually VGA resolution, which is 640 by 480 for anybody who cares. So that is on a modern full HD monitor or television or even your phone is very, very low resolution. So we'll see how it looks. I'm very curious to see if it gives it a little bit of that old school flavor. Also, new microphone. Obviously there has been, for some issues with some sort of squealing with the wireless microphone, some sort of high-pitched frequency cutting in. And I will say I didn't notice it in the first, when first brought to my attention, I didn't notice it. But then in later videos, it was it wasn't just like, oh, maybe this is something if you're sensitive. No, it was really blatantly a very bad, distracting, high-pitched noise. So I didn't figure out the issue. I didn't figure out where it was coming from, but I did run the video through a couple, kind of like vocal enhancement, noise reduction filters in Premiere. And to me, it cleared it up like almost entirely. Some people, Sarah IRL in particular, still calling it to my attention as a distraction. I know some people didn't notice it, some people did, but I thought, I can get a microphone and just plug it in. We'll see how this one works. This one, I've had this microphone for a long time, and it is an XLR connector, just like a more industry standard balanced audio cable connection. And it was something I didn't have the appropriate cables for this microphone, and I just never got around to getting them. So I had this, I believe, very nice microphone, but just no cable to actually plug it into the camera for a long time. So I ordered the cable. Ooh, can you hear this? I get drag racers on the street. So for anybody who is thinking about where's the worst place for clean audio, I have an airport right behind me, and I live on a main street where people love to drag race right in front of me. So this is basically just the worst spot, but that's also a better microphone. It's not pulling everything up. I'll be interested to see what you hear in this video. It's also kind of a windy day, so I'm curious. I did put the wind cut feature, turned it on the camera just to see if that helps with the wind. But yeah, I'm very excited. It is fun. It is more of an old school thing to be holding a microphone with a 45-foot cable attached. It's kind of fun. So all that being said, today I just wanted to talk about, I didn't really, again, I just kind of had that surge of, I'm glad Bart's doing better, and I should film something. And I didn't really have a plan for a topic, but the last couple days, we've been sitting with Bart and really just hanging around the house because, you don't want to leave your sick baby. You just want to make sure, because things go downhill so fast, things change so quickly. It was just sort of you just kind of are in it, for those couple days, all the time. And I ended up watching a lot of TV and watched I have now started watching two shows, rewatching one, watching another for the first time. And I just figured I would talk to you about my initial feelings on those two shows, coming back to one and experiencing one for the first time. First one is Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I have not watched any of this show. It just kind of came out at a time where I will say I'm not a big fan of new Trek, but not in a way where I hate it. I did really dislike the first two seasons of Picard. I was very sort of actively disliked that, but that was also because it was being sold to me and to us as a return to old Trek, and that was just not true. But I do kind of believe things become for the next generation, no pun intended. But things do, I'm okay with a franchise moving on from me. I'm okay having the Trek that I have. And I was never super hungry for more Star Trek. I have so many hours of Star Trek that I love. I have all the old movies. You have the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. Like, for me, that is plenty of Star Trek that was my time. And I'm okay having like letting someone else, letting the youngsters have their time and their time with a franchise where it can be for them. So I'm not like an active hater or anything, but I also was very much like, well, this isn't necessarily for me anymore, and that's okay. Um, and so Strange New Worlds kind of came out during that time, and it even though it was also like that's the buzz around it was like, oh, this is kind of trying to be old Trek. It's trying to be the Star Trek that people my age and older fell in love with, and but I just didn't get around to it. And an old pal reached out and said that they were kind of would want to collab, talk a little bit more Star Trek, which we have done in the past, and which I'm totally up for, totally game for. Specifically, he was looking to talk about Strange New Worlds, so I said, "Well, I gotta watch it." Watched the first episode. I'm like 3 episodes in at this point, and I have to say, first episode. I just want to really talk about kind of first impressions of the first episode. This is for me, and again, we're seasons in now, so I don't know where the show goes. I don't know really how people feel about it. Now all these seasons in, all I can tell you is my impressions of these first couple episodes. I really like it. That's what I came away. What I took from it was that it's probably the strongest first episode of any Star Trek series I've ever watched. They all take time, I feel like, to find their footing. I am generally very unimpressed with the first episode or even the first season of a lot of TV shows in general, but Star Trek, big time. The first episodes are really, for me, pretty rough because they just haven't found their voice. They haven't found the characters yet. This feels like the most realized crew and world in the first episode than maybe I've ever felt. And again, maybe things change, but I really love this idea that Pike knows what's coming. He knows his future. He knows when it's coming, and he knows it's bad. And there is this these two pulling forces in him, which are he doesn't know if knowing his fate means he will be too cautious or too reckless. But he feels like knowing his fate is this terrible burden. But even in this first episode, he seems to be sort of, it's being presented. Spock says to him, God, now, of course, now that I'm on the spot, I can't think of the quote, but it's basically like, suffering transforms into enlightenment, I think is what he says. But it's basically like, that it's a very common theme in a lot of Star Trek, which is it's in Star Trek V, and as much as that ain't a great movie, I love that idea of Spock's half brother. He takes away your pain. He basically like takes your trauma away, and everybody's like becomes like euphoric, and Kirk is the only one that's like, pain is what makes us who we are. Like, I don't want my pain taken away. I need my pain. Without my pain, I'm not me. Um, and I think there's a little bit of that in this Pike. I think that's going to be really what Pike's journey is about, and the pain of it's almost like, because he says it's not just that he knows, it's that he experienced it. He felt the pain of the metaphorical death that's coming for him. And I think that's just really interesting. And also, I think this cast of characters is maybe one of the most likable, charming cast of characters like in any Star Trek. And that's saying something, because I think that's something old Trek often gets very right. Like, whatever you want to say about some of the shows, whether you aren't a big fan of Voyager, which a lot of people aren't, or you're not a big fan of maybe DS9 isn't your thing, or Enterprise isn't your thing, those shows are not like universally loved by the fans. The one thing I think you can agree on is they get casting right. They get character dynamics, interpersonal relationships of your main cast of characters, I think is always like really solid, and very endearing. But this cast I really liked right off the bat. And there is a playfulness to the show, and I know, again, as a guy who loves Red Letter Media but is critical of them, the one thing I've heard, especially Mike, say quite a bit is that he hates sort of that, like, he kind of hates that playfulness in the characters, and that the characters that, like, that sort of childish giddiness, or that they always play clips on their shows of like Uhura going cool, like that kind of stuff. Here I find that like silly edge of some of the characters very refreshing and very endearing and very charismatic. But I also find there's characters who are broken and traumatized. Pike obviously being the main one. I cannot, of course, now I'm only a couple episodes in, so I don't know everybody's names. But the security officer, whose family was all killed by the Gorn, I really like her, and like there is like a warmth inside her, but she's like clearly just a very broken, traumatized character. And you're just immediately drawn to that. So yeah, Nurse Chapel is super fun, and like and I like that it's a mix. I can't think of the doctor's name, but he was like, oh, Mike, this actor's really good. Like, he's really charming, and there's all these people that I feel like would be scene stealers for me. In anything else, like with a lesser cast, I'm like, this guy's a total scene stealer. Like, whenever he's on screen, I'm like leaning forward because I want to hear what he has to say. But most of them are scene stealers, so it's like you have a core cast of scene stealers. That's like a recipe for, like, I'm very excited to see the rest of the show. Like, I'm in. And then, I like that, Pike gets maybe not a Picard speech, but I like that at the end of the episode, there's these, he finds himself on a world that is very much like Earth, very much like modern times, and they are like, he understands history, and he understands like how history repeats, and he sees that this world is going to destroy itself, like the way humanity. I need to look at the time. 20 minutes. I'm not even going to get to Northern Exposure, am I? I might have to just do a second video. But that's the thing about history, is like, we know it, and he knows where this is going to go. Like, he knows that, like, these people are on the brink of World War III, total annihilation, like destroying themselves and having to rebuild. And that's what in Star Trek canon, that's what humanity does. But wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to? Like, wouldn't it be nice if you could learn these lessons without destroying each other? And he has a really profound, wonderful Star Trek-esque, old Trek-esque speech at the end where he walks through like Earth history and shows it to these people and is like, this is your future. Like, this is what happens if you guys don't figure out how to talk to each other. Like, it just is. So learn the lesson from us so you don't have to learn it yourself. And invites them into the Federation, which super cool. So yeah, first episode, really great. Second episode I liked quite a bit too. Well, I wouldn't say it was as strong. I can't remember. Did I even get through the third? I think I'm like halfway through the third episode. But again, I really like all the characters, and I will say, like, I'm not going to get into it, but every controversy, every criticism that I heard about this show, about the casting of characters, like basically everything negative I heard about the show, without having watched it, everything that I had heard, I basically just completely disagree with. So far, that, things could change. I don't know, but so far, so good. I'm very excited to have Trek to watch again, like Trek that I haven't seen a million times. So Strange New Worlds, first couple episodes, very excited for. Northern Exposure, I guess I got time, right? Yeah, I can. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say right now. I will say with, both of these shows, there's the potential where I just start like doing videos about specific episodes. I don't think with any show I would do like an episode by episode rewatch of anything. I don't know if I really want to do that. But I do love talking about this stuff. So I definitely will probably hit a point with a lot of Star Trek, with probably with Northern Exposure now, because I'm just very into it, and I'm into it on a deeper level than I really expected, because I'm finding it to be like a very philosophical, very spiritual show, and very surreal, a much more bizarre show than I remembered it being when I watched it as a kid. So yeah, and Beverly Hills 90210, I'm constantly threatening to do episode reviews for that. So there's a lot of shows that I really just want to start talking about episodes. So you have been warned, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, Northern Exposure, if you don't remember it, it started in like 1990, ran for 6 years, something like that. I forget exactly. I watched it when I was a kid, when it came out. And I do remember there being a pretty major sort of pop culture buzz. I remember it being a popular show. I remember it being very present in the pop culture of the day. So maybe that's just why I watched it, because it was a thing that was popular. But I honestly don't remember, but that's my perception of it. But yeah, I was watching it as 9 years old, and it's really a show about, like, it's funny, but it's a much heavier show than I remember. And it's dealing with a lot. It's really a show about community and death and grief and spirituality, and it's all these things. It's just constantly like heavy, like it's this weird up and down. But again, it comes down to like just an incredibly endearing cast of characters, so perfectly played by everybody, and that sense of community. Small town Alaska, I guess I should say, for anybody who hasn't watched it. I got like 5 minutes left. For anybody who hasn't watched it, it was a show about a tiny Alaska frontier town of like 200 people. There is a doctor who, he's like basically just out of medical school. He's getting like a assignment, and he thinks he's going to
I think like Anchorage, Alaska, like an actual like city. And he ends up being transferred and is under like a 4-year contract to be the doctor in this small town. And he's like sort of a fast talking New York uh, med school, fresh out of med school doctor, very opinionated, very New Yorky. Um, and I think I don't think it's bad to say because he is constantly talking about it. That one of the jokes is that he's very Jewish and he's a fast talking New York Jew in uh like frontier Alaska where people have probably never even met a Jewish person. But that's sort of the initial sort of momentum of sort of the characters' relationships is very much like he's a complete fish out of water. He hates it there. He sort of resents everybody there because they represent like him being trapped in this place. I honestly think this is one of those shows where the first season really is weak compared to the rest of the show because I find Joel is the doctor, your kind of your main character. I think he is the way it's being played. He's actually pretty unlikable in the first season, and then once you get into season 2, it's not that he hates the people. The people still kind of represent that he's trapped there. He still doesn't really relate to them. But what I love about the show is how immediately everybody else is like, no, you're a part of this community. And like he is sort of dragged kicking and screaming to every event, like everything in the town. It's like, no, you are included because you are a part of this community. And the cast of characters is so, they're all characters that if they were in any other situation, they wouldn't be friends. They wouldn't be this community. They wouldn't be this family that they are, but they are stuck in, not even stuck, but they're, that's the world they live in is, no, we all pull together. That's a bumblebee. Sorry I swatted at you. I have a real problem with hornets and wasps. Bumblebees were okay. You guys do your thing. I like you. You're chonky boys. Me too. Chonky boys stick together. But yeah, I'm totally gonna run out of time, aren't I? Yeah, I should just wrap it up. But I will do. You know what? I'm gonna do a separate Northern Exposure video. Probably not today now, because now I've just wet your whistle.